Australia's housing market is a global disgrace. In one city, the median house price is hurtling towards an absurd $2 million. A figure that locks out almost all full-time workers from ever being able to afford their own home. How much worse does it have to get before Australia finally realizes that ultra expensive house prices will ultimately destroy the nation? I'm Biko Konstantinos, and that's what we're going to talk about today. I was doing some research on cost of living, and because I love apple pie so much, I wanted to see how much it costs in other places. Curiously, I found out that a slice in Jamaica costs $2.50 and a slice in the Bahamas costs $3. These are the pie rates of the Caribbean. If you thought that was bad, why don't you like this video and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm here to provide independent commentary on the big stuff that affects your life. And in Australia, there's not much bigger than bloody housing. And that's probably because you need freaking shelter to live. Now, to delve into the absurdity of Australia's house prices, I'm going to look at this 10 News clip titled Australia's House Prices Rise at the Fastest Rate in 4 years.
We know housing is expensive, but prices in Australia are now rising at their fastest rate in 4 years, with Sydney, Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth hitting record highs.
Rising at their fastest rate in 4 years? So you're telling me that the artificially inflated post-COVID housing boom, which turned Australia into the most FOMO, speculative, greed-fueled housing markets on the bloody planet, hasn't eased and hasn't returned back to normal market conditions, but rather is once again seeing house prices surge? Is that what you're freaking telling me? Like, has housing just become a play toy for the rich in Australia? Just seeing how much their multi-million dollar properties can rise every year. I mean, as far as I've been alive, I've never actually witnessed a serious housing correction in Australia. Some people tell me they've witnessed it, but when you have an asset that only goes up with very minimal downside risk, I'd say you'd call that a bubble. But everyone says there's no bubble in Australia because demand is so freaking strong. And yes, they're right. But this ridiculous demand has been artificially inflated by policymakers who seem absolutely determined to see house prices surge for infinity and beyond. And experts tell us one Australian city is on track for an extraordinary milestone where the average house will cost $2 million. I wonder which city that is. And an average price of $2 million bucks? Well, that wouldn't be so bad if the average income was around $500,000. But when the average wage is around $100,000, and that's before bloody taxes taken out, you can quickly see the absurdity of Australia's house prices, especially compared to other places in the world. Places like Italy or France, where you can literally buy a mansion for the same price as a dog box in Sydney.
Clinching a deal with a cliche has long been the business of real estate agents, advertising homes that might need a little TLC or have great potential, and you might have to see it to appreciate it.
In other words, they're all shit boxes, and you gotta mortgage your bloody life away just for the privilege to own one. And if you do happen to get that privilege, you'll spend hundreds of thousands of dollars just to maintain it in a livable condition. Welcome to Australia, baby, where everyone has the same opportunity to prosper financially. Sorry, I meant where property owners have a massive advantage and everyone else has to scrape and claw just to try and get by.
This is what, $2.4 million, $9.2 million, $0.7 million, $1.15 million, $1.825 million, $1.8 million buys you in Sydney.
I mean, how is it even possible that Sydney's being ranked the second least affordable place to buy a home in the freaking world? And maybe if it was the case that we had one super expensive city and the other ones were all affordable, that might be okay. But that's not the case at all, with nearly every city in Australia now becoming unaffordable for most full-time workers. The sad thing is, no one's even shocked by ridiculous house prices anymore. Everyone just expects to see new record highs year after year. Young people seem to have given up or just accepted the fact that house prices are absurdly, ridiculously high without even questioning it or even protesting about it. I mean, we've taken the opportunities given to previous generations, completely thrown them away, and handed young people and future generations a steaming pile of shit. How could we as a nation all climb up the property ladder, then push that ladder away and watch on while young people struggle?
According to data just dropped by Domain, 1.75 million is now the median house price in Sydney.
1.75 million for a dog box. Well, I put some figures into the mortgage calculator and you won't believe what it said. Just say you bought the median house price in Sydney for 1.75 million. You had 250,000 deposits saved up, which is almost impossible just on a wage if you're renting as well. You've got a mortgage around 1.5 million, and at today's interest rate, you'd be repaying about 8,700 every month, which equates to 2,000 every week. That's 100 grand a year in after-tax money you have to come up with. And not only that, over a 30-year mortgage term, you would have paid $1.6 million in interest. So your original loan is 1.5 million. You pay an extra 1.6 million of interest over the term. So the total payable amount over 30 years is over 3 million. But that's easy. Just make some bloody sacrifices like previous generations did. Yeah, right on. Young people will just live on rice and soya sauce for 50 years and still won't be able to afford the bloody median house in Sydney. It's become a bloody joke, but this joke ain't funny.
That price point up 3.4% in just 90 days.
We saw house prices rise by almost $60,000 in the most recent quarter.
So if house prices rose that same rate of $60,000 per quarter, that's $240,000 in 1 year. Does anyone else apart from me thinks this is a problem? Young people are supposed to save for a deposit with after-tax money, whilst at the same time they're trying to save. House prices are rising by $60,000 every quarter. The entire system is so skewed towards benefiting those who already own property that it's creating a massive wealth gap between property haves and property have-nots. And those who've gotten rich over this property bubble aren't working harder than young people who are just trying to get into the market. They were just lucky they were able to buy when prices were cheap. That's the only difference, but staggeringly, the wealth difference is in the millions.
And what will it get you? With a buyer's guide just above the harbour city's median is this 3-bedder in Botany, billed as having exciting potential with scope to improve.
Just 10 years ago, 1.75 million would buy you an absolute mansion in nearly every city in Australia. But now, due to ridiculous demand and our currency being completely debased, the money that could previously ensure you would live like a king now could only afford you a basic shack 10 kilometers from the city. How about that for improving the living conditions for future generations? Isn't that what we're supposed to do as a society? Leave the world better for those who are coming after us? Well, not when it comes to housing, apparently.
While Sydney remains the country's most expensive market, real estate in every capital city is off and racing. Brisbane has just become the nation's second most expensive city. Median house prices there are now 1.1 million.
1.1 million in Brisbane. Just a few years before COVID, that would get you an absolutely stunning house close to the city. But prices in both Brisbane, Adelaide and Perth have pretty much doubled just in the last 5 years. When young people can no longer afford to live in the suburbs they grew up in, we've got a monumental problem. As far as I'm concerned, we've broken the social contract, which says if you study hard or get a trade, you should be able to work full-time, save a deposit, buy your own home, then pay it off without having to kill yourself with sacrifices. But that contract seems to be utterly broken, and now it's no longer how hard you work, but if your family already owns property, which will be the determining factor if you can get into the market. Is that not a betrayal to hard-working Australians? I sure think so.
Number one, we're already seeing some momentum in the market due to the interest rate cuts we've already had. Number two, the 5% deposit scheme is very, very likely to bring in a surge of first-home buyers, which we think is actually happening as we speak.
Interest rates don't seem to have too much effect when demand is through the roof. When interest rates rose after COVID, there was a small dip in house prices, but then they started rising again as mass immigration flooded the country. But it's not just immigration creating demand in Australia, it's pretty much everything. Tax breaks for property owners, especially investors, vacant properties, the rise of Airbnb, first home buyer schemes, which always seems to make demand worse. Couple that with the value of our money going down due to inflation, which as we know is way higher than the official CPI, then you can understand why Australia's housing market is turning into a basket case. But very sadly, the majority of Australians actually are happy about it.
Those factors forecast to push property prices up for the rest of the year and into next, with Sydney quickly edging towards becoming a $2 million housing market.
I mean, who decided that Australian house prices can never fall? That seems to be the mentality of policymakers, of the RBA, of pretty much everyone. Why is it so hard to say that house prices must fall if affordability is to improve? We can't even get someone to say that house prices should even stay flat. That's how bad it is in Australia. Everything must support the housing Ponzi, because without it, the economy would fail.
Which is only about a 14% increase in price, and our expectations are that that could actually be reached by 2027.
Sorry, that's too far away. Let's make the median house price $2 million by the end of 2026. That's what property owners demand, and that's what they'll get. Forget about these young whippersnappers trying to have secure housing just so that they can have a life or maybe have a family. Property owners need profits, baby. Massive capital gains.
It means it's increasingly becoming a seller's market.
What do you mean increasingly becoming a seller's market? In Australia, sellers are the CEO and buyers are the mailroom workers. Or in other words, property owners are the lords while everyone else is a peasant. And you might laugh at those terms, but that seems to be the direction we're headed in.
For the buyer, the message is to be prepared to pay more for less and do your research.
For a buyer, the message is simple. Mortgage yourself up to the eyeballs for the privilege of owning a shitbox in Australia's capital cities. I'm Biko Konstantinos.